I'm so excited for this!
Hello fellow miners, welcome to the 8th video in my series on how to be more successful at Deep Rock Galactic Survivor, my favorite roguelite survivor game. This series will cover a number of topics that will help you be more successful in your dives. It is intended for players who range from being relatively new with little hours played to more experienced players with lots of hours played. You should at least be familiar with the basic mechanics and gameplay prior to watching this video. For this video, I will be focusing on strategies for Escort Duty. The target audience for this video are players who are newer to the game and progressing through the mission road or who are struggling with Escort, but I'm sure experienced players will learn something too. If you want to learn even more, I suggest you join the DRGS Discord and ask questions or drop a sub as there's more to come in the series.
Explore! Extract! Drill! Drill! Drill!
So what is Escort Duty? Escort Duty is a new dive type added with the release of 1.0, where the goal is to escort Bob 33 or just Bob along a narrow linear path to the end of the stage. To move Bob, you must mine oil shales, which are these little blobs of blackish goo littered throughout each stage, and then stand within the prescribed radius to activate Bob's movement. At the end of each stage, the path opens to a larger area with an objective you must complete. For stages 1 and 2, the objective is to blow Bob down to the next level by arming 4 detonators to blow adjacent explosives. For stage 3, Bob will engage the Ommoran, and the objective is to defend Bob against the Ommoran by staying close to Bob to progress the fight. During the fight, the Ommoran will spawn beamers that disable Bob and must be destroyed to allow the fight to continue. Once you progress the fight fully, Bob will destroy the Ommoran so you can grab the Heartstone and make an escape to the drop pod.
Oh, I'm feeling it!
So what gear and stats are good for Escort Duty? You don't really need separate gear and loadouts for Escort, as very often the gear you use for elimination will be just as good for Escort. However, there are a few stats I want to highlight as being great for the mode and worth considering for gear if you want to optimize your Escort runs. These stats are mining speed, movement speed, HP, and armor. Mining speed is good because you need to mine the oil shale, detonators, and beamers. Movement speed is good as you need to move between these objectives. The faster you are able to travel to and mine these objectives means you'll be facing a lower threat level and you won't have to fight as many bugs. Unlike elimination where you need to kill bugs to progress the dive, killing bugs is secondary in elimination, so the faster you can complete the objectives, the faster you can progress the dive. HP and armor are great for elimination, but I think they are more valuable for Escort. You can retreat far away from bugs in elimination, but you can't do that as easily in Escort due to the close quarters nature of the dive, and the fact you really don't want to retreat and leave the objectives. Being tanky allows you to complete the objectives faster by tanking more chip damage, as opposed to getting pushed off the objective and having to circle back.
Drill Dozer! What a magnificent piece of kit!
So what are good build strategies for Escort Duty? Like the previous discussion about gear and stats, builds that are good for elimination are good for Escort Duty, and you don't necessarily need to focus on specific builds. However, Escort Duty allows for a type of build which is not good in elimination, a heavy crowd control focused build. This is because Escort Duty is objective based where killing bugs is secondary to the dive. If you want to try out a heavy crowd control build, go for and focus weapons like the cryo cannon, cryo grenades, Drac with slow overclock, Zukov with cold overclock, cryo drones, and seismic repulsors. Builds that fully focus on crowd control are fun, but they're a bit more difficult to build and pilot. I recommend players go for builds that focus 1 to 2 carry weapons and then focus 1 to 2 crowd control weapons. For the same reason I like HP and armor, crowd control weapons are great due to the close quarters nature of the dive. Crowd control weapons often allow you to work on the objective safely, and you can even stall out stages 1 through 2 to gain more levels, so you go into stage 3 stronger. The crowd control weapons mentioned previously are all great options to consider, and in some cases can also act as your carry weapon, like the Drac or seismic repulsors. Here are good native crowd control weapons, and here are some good weapons with crowd control overclocks. When you have settled on a build pathway, don't forget that Escort Duty has 2 less stages and shops compared to elimination, so you'll often be lower leveled and have less weapon levels to go around. As such, I really prioritize upgrades for my carry and crowd control weapons. The shorter dives also change the value of a number of artifacts where DRG coupons, the scanners, and even 5-leaf clover are less impactful. I'm not saying they aren't impactful, just that these artifacts are much better in 5 and 10 stage dives. One thing to note about the scanners though is that Bob will proc them, which makes them a little more appealing. One final thing to mention is that the Bosco mining quirk and weapon overclocks for mining will mine oil shale detonators and beamers, which can really accelerate your progress if you have them.
I love me a big drill!
There are 2 main strategies for gathering oil shale. Run ahead and mine most, if not all, of the oil shale, so you can escort Bob in mostly one go, then non-stop, or run ahead and mine a few oil shales, then escort Bob some distance before leaving Bob to go mine more oil shale and repeat, the layovers. Both strategies work, but I often find the layover strategy to be more optimal as you can better mine resources, grab the supply pod, and control the threat level. When doing the layover strategy, I like to grab at least 3 to 4 oil shale before I return to Bob, which will fill his tank to half or just over half. It takes 6 oil shales to fully fill the tank, but you can overfill the tank and you will not lose out on the excess power. The approximate number of oil shale Bob needs to reach the end of each stage is 5 to 6 on stage 1, 6 to 7 on stage 2, and 7 to 8 on stage 3. When you are exploring the stage, know where the oil shale and minerals are located. If the oil shale and minerals are near the middle of the lane, such that Bob will run over and mine them, I often try to leave them and move forward looking for other oil shale and minerals that are not in the way of Bob's path. It can be hard to pinpoint if Bob will run over oil shale and minerals or not, but even having them be mineable from within Bob's activation radius can help speed up the escort process.
Big swarm detected. Buggerman, get ready.
As you make your way down the stage, stop as needed to grab minerals or oil shale. As you mine the oil shale, you can use it defensively by mining on the opposite side as to where bugs are approaching you. Small bugs will have to walk around the oil shale and will get bonked back as you mine the oil shale. The supply pod often spawns further down the stage, but it can spawn fairly early. Pay attention to where the supply pod is on the progress bar so you can quickly grab it as you escort Bob.
Too much crap in the way. Supplies can't land. Clear it out, miner.
You can use Bob offensively to kill large swaths of the swarms. Sometimes this will just happen automatically depending on the terrain layout and how much oil shale you have. Other times you can kite the swarms ahead of Bob, then run back and start escorting Bob to run the swarms over. When escorting Bob when there is a swarm, the safest place to be is often directly behind Bob. If you can hug Bob as you escort, the bugs will generally be unable to deal damage to you, and any bugs in front are taken care of by Bob. As you approach the end of stages 1 or 2, it can be worth leaving Bob before you start the final objective to quickly explore the area to mine resources, grab red sugar, complete the secondary, and identify where the detonators are. If you escort Bob to the end without having done this, you are on the clock and can hurt your chances of a higher rarity loot crate if you are spending extra time mining resources or trying to find the optimal path to the detonators. Stage 3 is less important to do this, but can be relevant if you have artifacts like nitrogenic powder or gold tip bullets, or gear with quirks for mining red sugar or meta minerals. And now a quick word from our sponsor. Do you have back pain? Do you feel weak on level up? Are you often struggling to not die? Do you have problems with intimacy? If you have any of these symptoms, ask your doctor about Once a Dive Vitaminer Pills, the new prescription drug from DRG, the makers of energy bars. Vitaminer pills are clinically proven to alleviate these symptoms and more. Vitaminer Pills is the only drug covered by all DRG health insurance plans that gives you 5% more max HP in addition to extra HP on level up. Side effects may vary. Don't take Vitaminer Pills if you have chronic greed or heart problems. Stop taking Vitaminer Pills if you experience vomiting, diarrhea, or an erection lasting longer than 3 stages. Some dwarfs reported loss of appetite, weapons reloading together, and mini-map issues. You deserve to get back to work. Talk to your doctor about Vitaminer Pills today. Thank you, DRG. We appreciate your sponsorship.
This is the proper way to do this!
For stages 1 and 2, you will have to arm the detonators at the end of the stage once Bob reaches the center of the end area. This is a timed objective where the faster you complete it will reward you with a loot crate similar to the elite loot crates in Elimination. The detonators are placed randomly around the center area where they can be far apart or very close together. Detonators apply a slight delay knockback to nearby bugs when initially armed, but this is very slow to activate and often not helpful. Scouting the detonators ahead of time as mentioned in the previous section can be key to quickly completing the objective and moving to the next stage. If the bugs are closing in on you while you are arming the detonators, you can either hold the position to try to finish arming it while taking chip damage, or leave the detonator if you don't have good HP or armor to work with. If you stacked up some extra HP and armor through your gear or upgrades, it is often worth taking the chip damage assuming you aren't already too low. Like Oil Shale, you can use the detonators defensively by mining the opposite side to bugs approaching you. If you don't have good HP and armor or are low on HP, leave the detonator. It's better to move to the next detonator or plan to come back than to die. There are 2 general movement strategies which you can employ in these situations. The basic strategy is to move away from the swarm, such that you'll be circling Bob, hitting detonators as you make your way back to the detonator you left. This can be lengthy depending on your movement speed and how much terrain or obstacles there are.
Last charge set. Seek cover.
The other strategy is to move away from the detonator sharply, such that you kite the swarm to an area away from the detonator you are working on. Once the swarm has followed you, turn around and loop back to the detonator. If the threat level isn't too high, you will often have a narrow but clear path back to the detonator. Depending on the detonator locations, you can also plan to blow up the swarm by kiting it through the middle close to Bob when you arm the last detonator, as Bob will blow up any nearby bugs. To do this, just note where your detonators are and make it a point to leave the last 2 detonators on opposite sides of Bob. Arm the 3rd detonator, then run to the other detonator on the other side, staying as close to Bob in the middle as you safely can, so the swarm is in the middle when you mine the final detonator.
Explosives prepped and armed. Get to cover. That's it. The bulldozer is away.
These are general strategies that you can employ with decent consistency, but you will often have to be creative and change tactics on the fly. One final note is that if you are on Azure World or have the Jet Boots artifact, you can insta-arm the detonators by jumping into them with the jump pads or activating the Jet Boots.
Bearlock's beard! Look at that thing!
The Ommoran fight is a longer objective where you must protect Bob by standing in the activation circle, which is more like a giant C as Bob and the Ommoran take up the middle and right side. The Ommoran will spawn beamers that disable Bob as you progress the fight. It is similar to arming the detonators in a sense where you have to mine the beamers which destroys them. 2 beamers appear at 75%, 3 beamers appear at 50%, and 4 beamers appear at 25%. One thing to note about the beamers when you destroy them is that they apply an instant knockback similar to the level up knockback, which gives you some breathing room if the bugs are bearing down on you. This objective is different from the detonators in that you also have to stand in the activation circle throughout the fight until the beamers spawn. Once the beamers spawn, you can employ the same strategies that we used to mine the detonators to also mine the beamers. During the periods where you're waiting for the beamers to spawn, the bugs will continue to swarm you and attempt to push you off the activation circle. When this is happening, move to free space in the circle. If you're getting pushed towards the right side of the circle with the Ommoran, more often the opposite side will be free, and if it is, move around the back of the Ommoran as the bugs close in. Sometimes you'll fully loop all the way around back to the area you were originally in. If you're getting pushed towards the left side and out of the circle, leave the circle as the bugs close in and do a small loop around to kite the swarm away from the area you intend to move towards. If you need to, fully loop around to the opposite corner. If you're moving far and can safely straddle the activation circle edge, do so to get extra time on the progress bar. As mentioned previously, these are general strategies that you can employ with decent consistency, but you will often have to be creative and change tactics on the fly. As you progress the fight to the end, all bugs in the vicinity of Bob will die in a huge explosion that does not damage you. It can be worth it then to tank some chip damage as the progress bar winds down to end the fight. Once you grab the Heartstone, a final huge swarm will spawn in, so watch for the drop pod and the guide tether to it. Running through the final swarm tanking chip damage can also be key to getting to the drop pod. You can also employ the strategy that was mentioned previously with the detonators, where you kite sharply away then run around the swarm.
Management will be most pleased. Good job on securing the Heartstone.
That concludes the 8th video in my series on how to be more successful at Deep Rock Galactic Survivor. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you haven't watched the other parts, you can find links in the description or by browsing my YouTube page. This series is far from over, but I'm not sure what the next part will be about. I have some ideas though, and we'll start noodling around pretty soon. If you have questions, feedback, or ideas for the next part, drop a comment below, or feel free to ping me on the DRGS Discord. I'm the Hardcore Nutshop Guy. Thank you. Rockin' Stone.
I zoned out for a moment. Let me just... Oh, great, you're closer to your target.